Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to let the attendees in there. The numbers are growing, so we're just going to give it 30, 50 seconds or so to get the numbers up and get everybody onto the site. So thanks for your patience. The number seems to be settling off there. So look, I'll get us up and going. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roy O'Connor. I'm with the Water and Environmental Society here in Engineers Ireland and also the Roads and Transportation Society. And both of those societies are co-hosting today's event, Rainfall Runoff, the Dutch Experience. So you're very welcome and thanks for giving up your lunch hour to listen into what we're going to talk about today. And we've two very interesting guests who I've met late last year and got to know over the time, Thomas and Floris, both from the Netherlands. So I'll introduce them both properly now in a few minutes. But if I may, just a brief bit of housekeeping. We're on the Zoom platform, as you can see. For any technical issues you may have, Niamh is in the background there with Engineers Ireland, and if you put those into the chat function, and she'll try and sort those out as best she can with you. As we go through the presentation, any Q&A or questions that you may have, please put into the Q&A box, and I'll triage those afterwards. And Thomas and Floris are more than happy to stay on and take your questions as best they can to try and answer those. So look, just as you're also aware, the presentation today is recorded, so it should be available in due course for you on the Engineers Ireland website through YouTube. And look, we have approximately a 1 hour presentation, including questions and answers, is the general time target that we have for this. Look, again, thank you for joining us, and I'll briefly introduce both of our presenters today. So we have Thomas here, who's a surveyor and civil engineer by trade. Both Floris and Thomas have 5 decades of experience between them, so we're in for a bit of an expert insight into their experiences with surface water management in the urban and suburban environment. Thomas has studied land and water management for the last number of years. He's a project manager in a multitude of partnerships with municipalities across the Netherlands. He has his own website, which hopefully we'll introduce or put up for you at the end of the presentation, Climate Adaptive Belden, if I'm pronouncing that properly. So yeah, it's predominantly used by governments and communications agencies and campaigns for climate adaptation. Floris is a research professor in the Netherlands focusing on climate adaptation and optimizing the long-term efficiencies of nature-based solutions in the urban and suburban context. He's an affiliated researcher with the Global Center on Adaptation for Climate Change. He's a founder of a number of websites, which we'll also list towards the end of this presentation, predominantly researching fields around climate adaptation, nature-based solutions, citizen science, water supply, and stormwater quality and management in an urban planning context. So we've got quite an oversight on all aspects of surface water management around urban projects and their delivery. So really looking forward to this myself. Thank you both very much for giving up your time to come along today. And Thomas, if you'd like to start sharing your screen there, I'll hand over the proceedings to yourself. You're very welcome to an Irish platform. Good to see you again, and best of luck with it. Your screen is just popping up for me there now, so I trust everybody else can see that as well. So I'll hand over to yourself, Thomas and Floris. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, it's pronounced Climate Adaption, but it's I guess you're
down here for
yeah, I guess your Dutch is a bit rusty.
Yeah.
The same for me. English is not my native language, so if you hear a bit of rusty English, my apologies in advance. Well, thank you for having us. Floris and we met Roy in Amsterdam, I think in November, on an introduction excursion course through the city of Amsterdam and Utrecht. We showed the group a lot of rain gardens, swales, and all green-blue solutions in the Netherlands, and it started a conversation, and now we're here. So let's start. I hope I can click on my screen. It works. I have to go to my presentation. Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. But who are we and what drives us? This is me, Thomas, and this is Floris, the bearded guy. I think we know each other for 12 years now. And yeah, you have to be crazy to work with us, and we are crazy enough to work with each other. And we go on field trips every now and then. We're curious. I think we have ADHD, Floris, so we're always looking for new things. We're easily bored, and the curiosity is what drives us and what makes that we learn and do new stuff every day. So this is what we do. We just take a field visit. We explore the world together. We do lots of research. We take photographs all over Europe, and we try to be online as well to be a climate adaptation influencer, as you would, I think. And we try to write articles in magazines on special occasions as well. So Floris, this sheet is yours. Tell me about yourself.
Tell a bit about background. Thanks for having us, of course, for me as well. So I work at Deltares, which is a knowledge institute next to my professorship at Groningen, which is in the northeast of the Netherlands. So what you can see here is that drought, floods, sea level rise, water supply, energy transition, all these topics are very important, of course, for the Netherlands being below sea level partly. So a lot of research is focused there. Of course, today we're going to really talk about sustainable urban drainage systems in the urban area. So I'm quite excited about that. But this just gives a bit of an overview, the research that we do in the Netherlands, but of course all around the world as well. So back to you, Thomas.
That's all. Maybe it takes you most of the time it takes you 5 minutes.
Let's go to the interesting part.
Okay. This is me. I'm a photographer. I'm a project manager for a municipal partnership in wastewater. I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, and I'm community manager, climate adaptation for the national government in the Netherlands. And I try to combine that in a 40-hour work week. And in between, Floris and I meet, and we'll share our interests and our studies. So this is about me. First, I have to tell you something about the Dutch approach on climate adaptation in the Netherlands. So I think you'll forget this at the end of the presentation, but for now it's just giving a bit of a context. In the Netherlands, we work with a national Delta program, which is translated in English for you to find and to read if you really want to. That's been going on for more than 10 years now, and there are three basic plans underneath that program. It's about sweet water, it's about high water risk management, and since 2017, 2018, there's been the Delta plan on spatial adaptation. It's based on 7 ambitions in a cycle of 6 years till 2050, and it's based on the principle that we'll be climate adaptive and water robust in 2050, so roughly 25-30 years. And it's based on the 7 ambitions, as I said, and you start with vulnerabilities to map them, to do a stress test, as we say here. You find out where water problems are located, but it's not only water, it's heat and drought as well, and major river flooding as well. And if you know where they are, you can talk about it with a lot of stakeholders. Strategy development is what you're doing as well then. The third thing is an implementation agenda. So if you know what the problems are, you talked about it, you can implement them in your plans. Employee co-benefits stimulate and facilitate as well as inside your organization as outside. You have to regulate and secure, and always you have to deal with emergencies. And it's very well to know it's not mandatory. There's no law that says you have to do it like this for every municipality. So what you see around the country is divided in 42 regions who are already working on wastewater management together. And there are tempo differences in those 42 regions, and even within regions there are tempo differences between municipalities. So you have leaders and you have laggards, and my role for the national government is to give the knowledge, to share the knowledge we all know from the one municipality to the other, to be on the same level, to have a level playing field, as you will. So the Delta Plan is mainly about urban flooding, heat stress, river floods, and droughts. And as Roy introduced in pre-meeting, we heard that Ireland is facing the same problems with rainfall and extreme weather records this year. The same is going on in Holland. We have saturated soils, so lots of farmers who can't grow crops or let the cows go in the fields, and it's unprecedented rainfalls. And in 2018, 19, and 20, we had 3 severe drought periods in the summertime. And I don't know, 2019 or 2020, we had over 40, 41 degrees in the Netherlands. So it was very, very hot. So we have the same problems, I guess, even though you have another climate, but weather's changing. So this is these are the 4 main themes within the Delta Plan. And we work with the strategy of if you know it, you have to think about it. It's analysis, ambition, and action. So something you wanted to add, Floris, for now?
No, not really. I just muted myself, but I can take something over if you like to.
No, yeah. Maybe this is the point where you can come in, because the Delta Plan is working since 2017, but climate adaptation is not new in the Netherlands. So you know about this because you're a bit older than me, and you were a student when this was going on. So please go on.
Yeah. So in 1997 is the first bioswale, we call it a wadi, in the Netherlands, was implemented in Enschede, which is in the eastern part of the Netherlands, which is high and dry. And this picture is the construction of it, and of course having the first best management practices, as we call it now, it's still there. A sustainable urban drainage system. So this is basically a picture of proof when we started, and then it's that is sustainable because it's still there, and people actually like this neighborhood because it's quite green, and all the water flows to these bioswales and infiltrates to the ground. And of course, that example was spread around the Netherlands, so also to cities as Amsterdam, which is partly under sea level. And here you see a bit of a graph of the history of the bioswale, so to say. So in 1995, we actually got the idea, and we stole it from the Germans. It's called the Mulde-Rigole system. But of course, later that came a lot of questions if we can actually implement that in the Netherlands, having clay soil, high groundwater tables, of course. So you see a couple of newspapers there, which says there's going to be mosquitoes and rats, so we're going to go back to the swamps. We don't like that. So in the development of time, we did a lot of research with national authorities describing how we can monitor it. We set up guidelines, and in the end, that's what you see on the right side above. We have a Wadi-straat, so that's basically such street, you can say, or bioswales street. And the first implementation in 1997 in Enschede is now being written about in Korean and Japanese. So it's something to be proud of, and it's fully developed. I think there are no municipalities in the Netherlands that don't have bioswale anymore. So that gives us a bit of an overview. And this is the first swale. You can find everything on Climate Scan. We will talk about it later, but you can see a lot of pictures from 1997. You already seen. It was totally built in 2001. You can see pictures on the right, 2017. But we can go back there today, and you will find it exactly in the same position as it is now. So proving that it's quite sustainable. And that's why we do a lot of research. Back to you, Thomas.
Yeah, we do a lot of research because, why? Because if you implement something, you need to know if it works. But we do research as well for people who are very afraid of new things, because lots of people are afraid of new things to implement them. So it's fear of the unknown. And here you can see some pictures from the UK, in the Netherlands, and I think we have a lot in Denmark as well. Swales as such, with big fences around them, all kinds of signs, danger, no swimming, and it's not a good way of showing that climate adaptation can be fun as well. So what we use in the Netherlands is called by us the adaptation bullshit bingo. This is what you hear, what we heard 10 years ago when we tried to implement swales and infiltration units in the public space. These are just 10 of most heard bullshit things, I think. Swales, your children will drown in it, so there needs to be a fence around it. And if you implement green roofs everywhere, you have to mow them. Yeah, we're not going to do that. And a swale with a tree, they're obviously going to die. And it's always the discussion with housing. If you want a swale or a sud, it needs space. And if you have the space, there always sounds from the people of housing, I can build 5 houses on that spot. So our job is to take away the fear, and one of the things is just doing a lot of research and to prove them wrong. But they're not afraid they're not just afraid, they've seen things, they've heard things. And we've had a lot of problems with implementing swales and sods as well in the Netherlands. And these are just some pictures with where people have been painting and mix them up with water and just put it in the drain pipe of the swale, so it's just flowing in your groundwater. Swales who don't empty anymore within 48 hours. Big machines on your swale soil, so it's compressed. A fire pit on the grass strip. People danced around it, and it's going to be rubbish. So and lots of things get to the paper as well. And bad news is news as well. But this is the thing people tend to remember. So that's. It's a bad thing, so we need to turn it around. So we always use the gearbox. So like climate adaptation is like a gearbox, and this is, I guess this is you. All the individual parts can still be good, can be well oiled and well maintained, but only put together they can accelerate. So you have to create the right conditions in your organizations to work on integrality. They need to. In the Netherlands, we had the same thing and still going on. You have a guy for housing. You have a guy for green. You have a guy for trees, or a woman, if you like. for roads, and they all work very well on that theme. But climate adaptation is like a blanket covering all those disciplines. So you really have to create conditions in your organizations and in between organizations to make climate adaptation a success. So Floris, this is what you do, what you love to do,
Exactly.
putting flooding streets.
Yeah, because of course I showed that sheet of Deltares and being a professor, but basically, if you will ask people, do you know Floris Bogart, and then probably you get the remark, isn't that the guy that floods every street or bioswale in the Netherlands? And that's true. I think the count is now about 200 of these that we flooded, just to prove actually that within a couple of hours or mostly 2 days, the water will disappear, even in locations where there's clay soil, so very low permeability soil, and also high groundwater tables, which is about, well, at least 1/3 of the Netherlands, called Holland, mostly below sea level. So, and this is the research that maybe if you're into research, some of you were quite technical, I remember, you know, you have these filtrometer tests, very small testing. What we like to do is go with a tank truck and just flood the whole street or the whole bioswale, because people will come out, and that's a part of education as well. And these are some examples of some publications that we do. So there's about 200 bioswales. We looked at how it's perceived by people, so more social science. There's the hydraulic capacity of the bioswales. So, for example, 95% is empty within 2 days, which is very good news and not expected by a lot of people. And of course, we have to write that down. Besides the nice videos that prove it, for some scientists, this is very key of moving forward with climate adaptation. And you might ask, why is that important? Why do we support the hobby of Floris to flood every bioswale? Well, one of the questions that was in 1997 with the first bioswale we showed was about mosquitoes. And at every implementation of bioswales, we get that question again. And well, if 95% of all the bioswales empty within 2 days, knowing that a mosquito needs 7 days of incubation time, you can say very confidently that we are really believing, of course, that it doesn't contribute to any mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are more picky. They will not choose a bioswale in this case. So, and this is a picture of just, you know, being out there with Thomas and doing the research and going with tank trucks. People leave their house and sometimes they're angry because of parking spaces or other things around. But we get a lot of dialogue, a lot of questions of them. Not only the mosquitoes, but also our kids drowning in it. So basically the bingo that Thomas showed. And we like to do research on, well, actually the questions that they have. So these are very nice people that mostly didn't know actually that there was a bioswale in their front yard, so to say. So we could explain what it is and made them a bit more enthusiastic, and so they can tell their neighbors. And that's very important also for social interaction in the neighborhood. So and yeah, the slide also said, if you have questions, maybe for you as well, please ask us questions, because we love to answer questions from our research. And what we also do is, because now we talked mostly about water, too much water, too dry, so infiltrate water. But this is a picture, actually, a harvesting of many solutions about the upcoming heat. So heat stress. You can see that some make beautiful green arches or green roofs, or they paint their roofs white, or they make cloths, basically shading the urban area. And we have over 1,000 locations based on citizen science, what kind of solution they have made for themselves. And that, of course, we can upscale also not from the on the private properties, but also on the public space. So we work on that with many water authorities in this case, or municipalities. And also sometimes it's surprising what kind of creative ideas citizens have. This is a trampoline. And I hope you all were kids once, and then you know that if you jump on a trampoline, you need a bit of space underneath, otherwise you will hit the ground, and it's not very pleasant. So some people uploaded on ClimateScan, which is where we gather all the creative ideas, a trampoline, which Thomas and me thought this is not about climate adaptation, so we're going to remove it. But then they made this sketch, which you can see on the left, and it's basically an infiltration facility. So they discharge the water under the trampoline, and it's infiltration capacity, subsurface infiltration. So that's very nice to harvest. So. And this is our big friend Richard. You want to take it over, Thomas? I see you smiling. Oh.
No, I think you're doing just fine. Just
all right, okay, I continue. And yeah, so this is Richard, a guy we work a lot with. He is from the municipality of Groningen, and he likes the hobby to flood things, and of course in this municipality, because it gives him a lot of information. But of course, as I said, it's nice to write scientific articles about it, but it's also about teaching and showing that these kids that hopefully choose a job in climate adaptation, it's capacity building, raising awareness, all those fancy words for just having fun. And these kids were really enthusiastic and told their parents in a lot of districts that the SUDs were not so enthusiastically accepted, so to say. So also this is quite nice. And that was in the public space. This is private space. So of course, well, in the Netherlands, it's about 60% is not being owned by a municipality or water authority. They cannot do anything, and especially these commercial areas or industrial areas, where there's a big chance of climate adaptation. Basically, it's easier than in the public area because you have one owner, and mostly they're quite big roofs that you could just manage with one bioswale, as you see here, or rain gardens, or green roofs, or basically some of these companies went so far that they actually are purifying their own wastewater in constructed wetlands. And of course, also heat stress on the right you can see as well. So, and that's quite inspirational. And we share those things on climatescan.org, the website you can see here. And this is some of these pictures that actually Thomas made, so I don't want to take credit for that. This is the Kersentuin. And what is the Kersentuin, Thomas?
Well, yeah, translated in English, it's the cherry garden. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's
do-it-yourself neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a do-it-yourself neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's 200 houses, yeah. I think.
So in this case, the municipality Utrecht just gave the public space to the inhabitants of this area, and they themselves are doing the maintenance. And I think that's a big thing that I saw a lot abroad, Vancouver or New Orleans or other regions where I do research. But I think this in the Netherlands is quite a fantastic example, because the people there's a lot of social cohesion. They do the maintenance themselves. They have fruit trees. They bake apple pies, eat them together. They have their own amphitheater. That's a difficult word for a Dutch guy. So they made it themselves, and they do shows together. And I think it's a great example. And Thomas and me were invited there to show some of the examples around. But actually, we were in one of the best management practices of the Netherlands, being the cherry garden, Kersentuin.
Yeah, and the main thing I remembered, there are no water problems there because it's maintained by themselves. So they make it work very well. So if there's a problem, they can only address to each other. But we're talking about ClimateScan, Floris, so we'll continue.
Yeah, because as I said, this is best management practices, but we already harvested, I think the count is now, at least above 5,000 projects. As you can see here, this is an aggregated Google map. Basically, if you put point at the point, and then you get bioswales, rain gardens, so everything is everywhere. And I think this map makes people a lot positive, because they see there's a lot around that you can learn from. I'm happy because I can research it. So this is citizen science, over 14,000 projects worldwide. What can I say? More than 2,000 are registered and put up projects. It's well received by MBS, as you can see here. So there are a lot of tools, of course, that you can use, and probably some make more sense for Dublin or other regions that you might work. But you can see here, ClimateScan is one of those that ticks a lot of boxes, and mostly because of participation. So you can do things yourself instead of having a tool that exists for the period of a paid project by the EU, for example. And it links to a lot of databases. This is the database on YouTube that you can find. There's, I think, over 3,000 videos already. You can just, it's all in English. So if you do swale or you do heat stress or rain garden, you will find numerous videos from all around the world, and you can get inspiration of it. And the most viewed are, of course, the videos where we flood things. So you can see how fast the water will go into the ground. And I hope that will take away some skepticism. And well, if you go to the website, you should do that after the presentation, of course. And we really hope that you could add a project as well, that you know. Of course, in Ireland, we found some projects which are very nice inspiration for us as well, with a video explaining what kind of rain garden in COP is being implemented. And well, Thomas and me really like these examples that are not only about the implementation, but also about the education and the involvement of people implementing it, because that's where it starts. And of course, there are so many great solutions all around the world. This is just, you know, green of the Netherlands, I would say. Tree boxes, you have roundabouts that are green, permeable pavement, of course, but also tram tracks. Some of the bioswales we've seen, rain gardens, constructed wetlands. They're well, so much on the public and private area that we can be very proud of, and it's very amazing and enthusiastic for me to see the world changing around it, especially as points on ClimateScan, for example. And we do, of course, the research. So we basically make the SUDS DNA, I would translate it. These are some publications, and you can see actually that we put the reference underneath. So if you want to read more about it, but basically this shows what kind of SUDS are being used in what kind of municipality to share international knowledge. So for example, in Enschede, it's bioswales. Not surprisingly, because they started. Groningen, it's more about green roofs, maybe because they have the subsidized program. So in this case, you can do that for Johannesburg, which we did, of course. That's more about drought. Or if you go to Copenhagen after the cloudburst, it's more about maybe water squares. So every city has their own DNA, and every year we publish the most viewed projects on ClimateScan, which is a lot of fun because it changes in time. 4 years ago, it was water squares from Rotterdam, for example. Lately, it's more about biodiversity because that's getting into laws as well, that we have to green the cities. And of course, what we see is that some of the projects are very well viewed, sometimes because of great videos and great photos of Thomas, but also because municipalities, and mostly small municipalities, because the bigger cities, that they have their own marketing and communication. But we really help small cities also to be addressed because of their great work on climate adaptation. So this is a top 21. And some examples that have great pictures are from Thomas. Back to you.
From klimaatadaptievebeelden.nl. Yeah. In that, yeah. As a photographer, I always liked making pictures around the country, but it started all out of frustration. I have to say honestly. I worked for a municipality for 11 years, and I saw climate adaptational measures popping up in the Netherlands. And as a policymaker in the municipality I worked in, I wanted to start new things on climate adaptation. And I always got a lot of resistance from other disciplines. And so I started making pictures to take away the fear. And afterwards, there were no more fears left. There was just one guy who was afraid of everything, and he didn't know how to do it. And that's the reason they didn't want it. So in my work, pictures always help to show things can be done. These are all real. It's not AI. It's all real. It's there. It's out there. So you can see, you can learn, and you can visit. So I put some pictures here where now, like the left picture is in the middle of Amsterdam. It's a very cramped and crowded city, but they made the bold claim to remove parking spaces in the middle of the city and put a small rain garden in there. You see cities with reconstructions. They just take away the grass strips. They change them into swales with bike lanes and paths in between. And we'll see a transition in the Netherlands where the public space is used like a lasagna. It's multi-layered, and the climate adaptational public space is good for heat stress. It's good for droughts, and it's a solution for water problems as well. So it's very diverse, and you can do a lot of things with it. You can play with it in design and all that, and people like it. So yeah, I said you have to make long-term choices, but it's very, very hard to make long-term choices. And if you have the integrity of your organization, long-term choices have a loud voice, I think. So give up parking spaces, always a discussion. And if you want to make the transition from car-driven to bicycle-driven or pedestrian-driven design and construction, it's discussion. But we've learned and we've tried. So these are some examples as well, where in new areas the car is just taken away from the public space, and it's behind the houses. And we're making a transition in more and more green-blue choices, and as you can see, kids love it. But we always see the older the person, the more difficulty they have with the green-blue choice. And referring back to the adaptation bullshit bingo, but we really see there's a new generation of designers, younger people, trainees, who bring a good influence into organizations to make the green-blue transition. And a lot of old people retiring, that helps as well. But the new generation really thinks different, and you see organizations making it a strategy to integrate younger people and younger voices into policy. And so this is a surface runoff of rainwater. It's already common practice in new construction in the Netherlands, and we also see it more and more in reconstruction, rethinking reconstruction. It doesn't need to be under the ground anymore, and you can park it on the street as well, if you design it properly. And there's also under the road storage, and it also takes many forms in cities, with crates or stone layers or many different things, or sand. So lots of examples already made with, I think, surface runoff, Floris, more than 15 years of experience now.
Yeah, at least, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't work, and that's obviously the examples here. You always they pop up in discussions, but then we put 100 more on the table who will work and who can work, because we go into the neighborhoods every time. we talk to people, and we always have the story why they work and why it is successful. So it's very important to be in contact with your inhabitants as well. And the same is for green parking. We see it's an ongoing process in the Netherlands. We are still practicing and learning and improving. It didn't work out in the first time, because we found out it's not just the top layer, the green layer. It's 1 meter under the parking spot. That's most important for infiltration and growing conditions of the grass. Grass roots can go down as many as 80 centimeters, I think. So the soil underneath has to be well fed and for a grass strip to look like this. So we started, and we practiced, and often it doesn't work, but we're now in the process of I think it's going the right direction. Floris, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we see more and more. We're amazed of the speed it's going now. It really gained speed. So, and for us, this is the only way to for a sponge city to gain momentum. It's by practicing, by learning, improving, collaborate with other disciplines, working together. Try, and if it doesn't work, try again. Don't stop, try again. I think that's the main. So, Floris, this is your.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're coming to an end. We disturbed you at lunch. We respect that, and we would love to see if there are some questions, that you will answer. That's more. I think you got an idea what we've done, or what we do in the Netherlands. One thing, of course, after this presentation, we hope that you had some things from this. One maybe proposal we have. We would love to do our tricks, so to say, with which changed the Netherlands with some very good footage proving that things work, making people enthusiastic, also linking into the raising awareness and capacity building, as you can see here. We call that basically Climate Cafe. We go mostly with education, because it's a younger generation we would like to build, but of course we need your expertise as well, your knowledge and your enthusiasm to teach them what we could do. And Climate Cafes is a concept that we mostly go for a couple of days. We go into the field, we flood something, because I like that, and it shows that some things work. We make good footage. We fill in climatescan.org, for example, and with that we can make a lot of good research, or basically good stories, what works in the city and what doesn't. And also, because we did climate cafes all around the world, as you can see on this map, we can also show that maybe some innovation from New Orleans make a perfect case in Dublin, or with drought coming up, we might have to do some water demand stuff from South Africa, or so basically getting that international knowledge exchange going, what we're doing now in this presentation, of course, between the Netherlands and Dublin. So basically, yeah, we would say thank you so much for having us and giving the chance that we can present this. And we would love to hear some questions, and maybe that could be the topic of a climate cafe that we will come over and entertain you with even more.
Okay, Roy, back to you.